All right. Okay, this is the second video on the glory of the Lord. The first video, I covered the scripture that many people are familiar with, that we've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And in Isaiah, that it says that we are created for His glory, for the display of His glory. We're just created for Him to dwell in. We're the temple of God. But today right now, I want to talk to you about a little bit about defining what the glory is, what glory means, because it just needs to be defined. And so in Corinthians, Paul he says that every body is different, and this is, taking it from the simplest form, but he says all flesh is not the same. Men have one kind, animals another, birds yet another, and fish still another. There are also heavenly bodies. There are earthly bodies, but the splendor of the heavenly is one kind, and the splendor of the earthly is yet another. And that's the same word, glory, or doxa. And that's just talking about the body itself, not necessarily the content, which is yet another one, because there's various levels of glory. Paul says that that we are meant to grow from one level of glory to another. Now, in Corinthians 41, it says the sun has one kind of glory, the moon another, and the stars another, and each star differs from one another. So that's just saying that there is and it's kind of obvious, but glory of one thing is different from the glory of another. Now I want to talk about Paul, or this is the words of Jesus, and he's talking to his disciples, and this is such a good word. He says, "Consider how the lilies grow. They do not labor or spin." And that word is spinning garments. And he said, "Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all of his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, how much more will He clothe you, O you of little faith?" So he's talking about the glory of the simplest type of flower, exceeding the glory of Solomon. So I want to talk about Solomon too. Another thing that Jesus did say about Solomon, it says the Queen of Sheba, the Queen of the South, will rise in judgment because she came to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And a greater than Solomon is here. And he was speaking of himself, because Jesus created Solomon. But I want to read to you this visit of Queen Sheba, because it talks about both his wisdom and his glory. And this will give you an idea, kind of begin to show you what glory looks like. So when the Queen of Sheba heard about the fame of Solomon, excuse me, this is found in 1 Kings 10. Sorry, reading from the book, because I usually read my Bible, the Blue Letter Bible. It's so awesome. When the Queen of Sheba heard about his relation to the name of the Lord, she came to test him with hard questions. She herself being a queen, and you'd be surprised how well read some of these people were back in the day. But arriving at Jerusalem with a very great caravan, with camels carrying spices, large quantities of gold and precious stones, she came to Solomon and talked with him about all she had on her mind. Solomon answered all of her questions. Nothing was too hard for the king to explain to her. When the queen of Sheba saw all the wisdom of Solomon and the palace he had built, the food on his table, the seating of his officials, the attending servants in their robes, his cupbearers, and the burnt offerings he made at the temple of the Lord, she was overwhelmed. She said to the king, "The report I heard in my own country about your achievements and your wisdom is true, but I did not believe these things until I came and saw with my own eyes. Indeed, not even half was told me. In wisdom and wealth, you have far exceeded the report that I heard. How happy your men must be to live here." So what she saw was his glory, and what she saw was his inner world that the Lord had given him. His wisdom on display through architecture, through clothing, through adornment of the temple of his own palace, his own table, just the everything about his the musicians. She saw the musicians too. Some things in here that aren't mentioned. And then later on it tells you about his splendor, about all the gold and silver that she began to send to him every year. And they had a very good relationship from that point forward. But she was so overwhelmed. She sent him lots of gold and silver. And but it's the sum total of really who he is. You don't know a person until you see what they do. It's like Michael Jordan. Who is he until you see him on the basketball court? And you're like, oh, wow, you do this? Until you see a person in their element, you don't really know them. But when you see a person in their element, you see really what's on the inside. And so glory is your outside, but it's also your inside. And so with that, it's just a simple little lesson here. It's short and sweet, but he gave me one little thing, that the glory is the sum total of who you are. It's really the expression of your entirety, And so for God, you can imagine it's quite a bit bigger. And I'm going to do another video right now, but I'm going to leave this one short. The glory is your splendor. It's the radiance of who you are. And it's not always revealed, and we're going to see in the next chapter or the next lesson why sin and glory are contrasted, because one is your destiny and one is what you've opted for. So that's it for now. The Lord bless you, and listen to the next one. It's really good.